there was no oversight. It was a couple kids in elementary school, probably 7th grade, let loose with a table saw and other power tools. I had a neighbor that lived a couple houses down whose dad had a table saw, and it was just a little contractor table saw. And I
Yeah.
remember begging him to let us build a skateboard ramp, and I had drawn out this thing of what the skateboard ramp was going to be, and he didn't understand it. And gosh, kind of story of my life, but he didn't totally understand it. And so he gave us a project to build, and it was a toolbox. And I can remember, like a round handle that we had to put a kerf down the center of. And there was no oversight. It was a couple kids in elementary school, probably 7th grade, let loose with a table saw and other power tools. And if I had kids that age, I totally would not let them just go for it on
No
something like
safety
that.
concerns at all there. Yeah.
None, no. And no safety equipment of any kind, no oversight. We got it done. And those toolboxes were terrible. Things didn't line up, but I learned at that point that there's a set of skills that I did not have at that point in time. And as creative as you are, and whatever great ideas you have, if you don't have the skills to either communicate those to someone who can build it for you, or the skills to build it yourself, then it's never going to happen for you. And all of your great ideas are going to die somewhere between your brain and reality. And so I started down the path of, I want to be able to do all of this myself. And strangely enough, the toolbox was one of my first wood projects and one of my last for a very, very long time. I had decided that metal work was way more fun than woodwork. And I got into welding and metal fabrication probably late in high school. I had an old Volkswagen that was the star of my YouTube channel. That was how my YouTube channel started, an old Volkswagen Carmen Ghia that I was restoring. And that was one of those cars. I loved the car. I loved the design of it. I think it's just an iconic design. And the car I had was completely rusted out. And then my brother backed into the front end of it. And it was either acquire the skills to fix this thing, or you can't afford to have someone else do it. It was just too much work. And so I started learning the art of welding, sheet metal, which, butt welding sheet metal. When you talk to metal guys, that's one of the most difficult things to do. And that's where I started. And if you know anything about Carmen Ghias, they're very bubbly and round shaped. So I bought an English wheel and learned how to raise my own panels on the English wheel. From there, it grew into, I wound up at architecture school at the University of Kansas. And one of my instructors, who I look up to this day, Dan Rockhill, had a design build practice. And all of his buildings and houses have this intricate metal work. If you want to see some of the best designed metal work, including houses, look up Dan Rockhill. His portfolio will just amaze you. And he was one of my biggest mentors in school, one of my best teachers. And he taught me how to incorporate steel design and make it, make it inviting for people. Steel's always this very cold, hard thing. And while those are tactile properties of it, you can make it into very beautiful, lacy, lightweight things that you can't do with other materials. And so this is a long answer to a short question, but through the metal work, I realized that, and I started when I was in school making custom designed furniture. And it was very, like, I would spend an entire summer on one piece for somebody, and then they would pay me like a 12-pack of beer for it at the end of the summer. It was kind of ridiculous, the amount of work that I put in, but that's the tuition that you have to pay to learn how to do some of these things. And I realized that really mixed media was where I wanted to land. And that was marrying wood construction and steel and glass and maybe composite materials and other things. And it's led to a lifelong experiment for me. And as you mentioned, I also am a musician, and guitars have been the love of my life. And I decided quite a few years back that I wanted to start building guitars. And I've worked with guitars my whole life. We had a guy in our neighborhood who was a guitar maker, and he showed me how to make guitars, but I didn't get to use his tools. I got to watch him in his workshop. And so all of those things have slowly culminated over the course of my life into a company that makes tools for people who make guitars, and then making my own guitars from scratch too. So that's a long version of how did I get here, but there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle.